Welcome to Empowered by AI, the podcast for women entrepreneurs ready to harness AI to take their businesses to the next level. I'm your host, Michelle Muncie Silva, founder of Innovative AI Studios. You may have left corporate life to start this entrepreneurial journey, but you don't have to go it alone. Here, you'll find a supportive community of like-minded women and an invaluable thought partner each week, as my guests and I share actionable insights you can use right away. So let's dive in together. All right, I'm so excited. Kellye Kamp, it is great to see you again. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you, Michelle.
Awesome. I want everyone to get to know you a little bit better. So can you share a bit about your career journey from advertising to founding SourceKamp, how it led to your focus on AI? Just let us dive in and get to know you.
Sure. So I've been a serial entrepreneur most of my adult life. I started out working for ad agencies for about 12 years and started at the bottom copywriter, exited 12 years later as a senior or creative director. And then I moved to a market where there were no agencies and I had to reinvent myself. And I somehow found myself in the construction arena and I got into residential remodeling. And I worked for a gentleman for a few years and thought I could do this better. So I did. And I started my own construction company. And I had that for 12 years and I loved it. And then I decided to switch gears again and I focused on the kitchen and bath design aspect, which I'd been doing for years already. And then I moved back to Dallas and I decided to open a very high end kitchen and bath showroom, which I did and had that for a couple of years. And then I was just ready for something new. And I thought I really loved advertising. I wanted to get back into that. And I started getting interviews, and I realized that I had, in those many years I was in construction, I had missed the entire digital age of marketing and advertising. And yes, I could learn some terminology, but I was so far behind that I was never going to catch up. And I was devastated. Here I was at the top of my game when I exited, and now I was completely irrelevant. Nobody cared about the years of experience I had. I was just too far behind. And while I was trying to figure out what my next move was, generative AI came onto the playing field. And I just happened to sign up for ChatGPT the very first day it was released, not even knowing, not even looking for it. And I started playing with it, and I very quickly realized what this tool was. And I also saw it as the next digital age. And I thought, I am, quite frankly, too old to miss another huge technological change. And I was out of a career anyway. So I just decided to dive in head first, learn everything I could, become an expert as much as was possible. And here I am today.
I really want to explore that with you because you talk about on your website, in the work that you talk about emphasizing a human-centered approach and you want those human-centered experiences. So how does this influence, I should say, the way that you integrate AI into business solutions for others?
Every career I've ever had has been very human centered and client centered. And I know from advertising, from construction, and now from AI that if you don't get to the root of what the customer wants and needs and truly listen to them, then you're always going to fall short.
Mhm.
And I think this is even more important now because people don't understand this technology. They don't know how to use it. They're a little nervous or flat out scared. It's almost like learning a new language that nobody really knows how to speak, and it can be very intimidating. And so I am very empathetic and sympathetic towards people who are just now dipping their toe in the water of AI because I remember how I felt the first few times I used it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it could do. Of course, we always see the scary parts of AI, which is a very broad term, by the way. I do not get into robotics or machine learning or the Terminator type scary robots. I don't do anything like that. I do generative AI.
And how do you help businesses bridge that knowledge gap that you're talking about? What are some common challenges that you see organizations face when they're starting with generative?
The first challenge is a lot of businesses aren't even talking about it. If they are talking about it, they haven't done anything to pull the trigger to start to learn about it or start to integrate it into their systems and processes. And that's also a very scary place to be because there are a lot of people out there claiming to be experts right now. And quite frankly, there's no such thing. We are all brand new to this. The technology has barely been around for 2 years, and it has changed so much in 2 years. It's changing daily, and there are thousands of tools. It's just too big of an animal for anybody to get control of. There's really no such thing as an expert in this field. Of course, there are some that are more experienced, but it's a full-time job just keeping up with the changing tools, the changing technology, and of course, how to integrate it. So the first thing I do is I always approach my clients with great empathy, just knowing that it is a little treacherous, it's a little scary, it's the unknown, and not everybody's ready for it. Not everybody is adept at learning a new language or wants to learn a new language. So honestly, I just really encourage my clients to just start with play, and I'll give them several kinds of little exercises to do that are not scary, that are fun. It could be anything from writing a bedtime story for your grandkids or creating a shopping list and putting it in the order that the groceries appear in the store, or just something very benign that just gives people a taste of it without it being scary and intimidating.
I love that. I love that. And on top of that introduction, you offer really tailored solutions for clients as well. Can you walk us through the process of what it's like for you to create a custom strategy for a business?
Sure. So the first thing I'd like to start with any new client is with the proof of concept project. This is a very small scale, a quick win, get a project off your plate that's been sitting there that hasn't been movable for quite some time. It's a flat fee, which they know exactly what it's going to cost, and I don't even put a time limit on it, really. I do ask that we start with a somewhat smaller project, again, just to give them a quick win. And in the same process, teach them a little bit how to use these tools, how to talk to the language models, because it is like learning a second language. I like to tell people that just because I've given you a few vocabulary words doesn't mean that you're suddenly fluent. And I think that can be very deceptive about programs like ChatGPT and Copilot, because you can put in any prompt and get a pretty good response back no matter what. But that doesn't mean that you really know how to interact fluently with these tools. And somewhere down the road, you're going to go, oh, why am I not getting a good result? Or why am I not getting the answer that I'm expecting? It's because you just haven't learned how to use the language yet.
And there's so much in not taking just at face value what it gives you as well. You have to really be critical as you're looking at it.
Definitely. Definitely. I always tell people it's like having the smartest intern on the planet, but they're an intern. They're not experienced at what you specifically do, and they definitely cannot read your mind. So the more specific you are in your request and the more words you use, I hate to say it's not really a volume thing, but Google has prompted us to tell it what we want in 3 to 6 words. And so when we go to use a large language model like ChatGPT, we're in that habit of giving it the fewest words possible. And it's really the opposite. It's a conversation that it's okay to type out a whole paragraph or speak a whole paragraph or two to tell it and explain what it is you're wanting to get back. And I promise you the results will be much better if you talk to it a lot more than you're used to.
Yes, that is I never thought about that before. That's an excellent comparison. Google has really trained us to just pop a few things in. And when you get more acclimated to Chat GPT, it's a conversation. It's a back and forth. It's an iteration process.
Definitely. It is not a one shot, here's a prompt and give me one answer or give me links to 3 articles that I now have to go read and then come up with my own conclusion about what the answer is. It is literally a conversation. And that's the great thing about these large language models versus looking up an article on the internet is that you can keep asking questions and keep getting responses as long as you want to.
Hmm. You have also dabbled in custom GPT bots, haven't you? Because I
I
had
have.
a ton of fun playing with a couple on your website.
Oh, good.
How can you explain how these bots are used and what's unique about the value that they're bringing to businesses?
Yes. So or a GPT, which is made by Chat GPT, the marketing is terrible. I wish they came up with different names, but it's called a GPT, or for to keep the confusion out, a bot. It's a chat bot. And there are other companies that have them as well, but my favorite is Chat. I think they're the easiest ones to use. The interface is great. But what you can do is you can give it a set or a parameter of data that you want it to pull from very specifically rather than everything on the internet. You can give it a persona, you can give it tasks to do, you build out whatever you want that chatbot to do. And I use it for all different things, everything from just simplifying processes. If I have a lot of repetitive tasks that I have to do over and over, I can create a chatbot that will automate that response for me and give me the same results every time just by changing a couple of place markers, if you will. I use them whenever I have a new client. I'll create a new chat bot specifically for that client and almost use it like file system. So if they're sending me articles that they're interested in, I'll dump that into their chat bot. If they send me just information from a conversation that we've had, I'll put that in. And then I can go back later and I can ask it to recall things for me and it finds it like that. I can ask it to give me a list of all the articles that I've uploaded to this GPT. It'll just list the articles. And there are also links to the original articles, so I don't have to go searching for those again. And then I can start to ask questions like connect the dots between these two seemingly unrelated ideas. Or how would you handle this situation with this client? They're facing this question in their business. How would you recommend we approach this? Or give me a strategy. It really is a conversation, but it's just a much more specialized tactic of going about getting an answer than just asking the general internet. One great example that I like to use, it's like that game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You remember that one? You could either phone a friend or you could ask the audience. And most of the time, if you ask the audience, just because it's collective in knowledge, they'll usually get it right. But let's say I'm standing in front of that audience and I've got a kidney disease, for example. I can say, I'm going to ask the audience how to handle this disease. I might get a fairly decent answer because of that collective knowledge. But if I start to narrow it down and say, I only want to ask doctors about my disease, then that's going to narrow down the focus quite a bit. I'm going to get a much better answer. However, within that group of doctors, I could have a psychiatrist, I could have a doctor of medicine, I could have a doctor of education,
Mhm.
any kind of doctor. So now I want to make it even more specific and say, I only want doctors who specialize in kidney disease, who went to the top 5 schools in the country and made straight A's or whatever I want. So I'm just narrowing that source of information before I ask it a question about my kidney disease. That's basically how a GPT works. I can get that information really focused and narrowed so that it's only giving me information on that specific subject or with that specific database. And it's not just asking the whole crowd out there.
Give it a role and then give it
Mm-hmm.
a problem to solve.
Correct.
Exactly.
And give it a knowledge base.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, when you've got businesses hooked on this concept and they're interested in creating that custom tool, like a GPT bot that can do that for them, what kind of advice would you give them to start the process?
Building one on your own is a little bit tricky. Again, it's like writing an essay paper in another language and you're not real familiar with the language. I really do to ask a lot of qualifying questions about number one, what problem are they trying to solve? What does the end result look like? What's their best case scenario? And what struggles are they dealing with right now? And just ask a lot of questions like that before I even start building. But generally, I either build it for them or I'll help them build it. Because again, it's pretty simple on the surface. Anybody can just create a chat bot, but to have it function properly the way you really want it to takes a little bit of finessing and some knowledge about how to build those.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to
And
build them with my clients so they know how to build
nice.
them. Mhm.
And you do emphasize that ongoing training and support for your clients. How does SourceKamp help foster that idea of building internal literacy around Gen
Um,
AI?
yeah, a few different ways. One, I do offer a retainer package, so I can do a little bit of training with them, get them started. And if they want to go off and play with the tool on their own and see what they can do, that's great. But then if and when they hit a brick wall and go, oh, I'm not sure how to get past this particular issue, then they have the opportunity to just call me, send me an email for a very low fee monthly, and I'm there to support them in that. A lot of my clients just want to actually have me build the product with them collaboratively. So we'll sit down side by side, we'll get on the computer and we'll build it out together because like most consultants in the past, I call it the old days, like a year or two ago. But in the past, consultants would come in, spend a few hours with the team. The team would say, here's what we want, here's our problem that we're trying to solve, and here's the result we want. The consultant would then go away and work for 3 weeks or 3 months and come up with a solution, bring it back and present it. And honestly, it may or may not be the best result for the client, or it may not be what they were expecting to get back. There's a lot of time wasted for both parties. There's a lot of money that's exchanged that may not have been utilized properly. What I like to do is called collaborative coaching. So what I like to do is work literally in real time with them. So in that 3 hours they would spend normally explaining to me what they want, we can actually, as they're explaining it, we can be building the tool,
Mhm.
asking the questions, getting responses back. And they can say, oh, that's not really the direction we wanted to go. We should go over here. Or, oh, here's some information I forgot to give you the first time. And so by the end of 3 hours, we've actually solved the problem or created the product right there in real time rather than waiting for me to come back and give them something that may or may not work.
That's the beauty of iteration. And I think companies, they start,
Mhm.
once they see this in action, like you're providing for them, I would imagine that they get completely hooked.
Totally hooked.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. It's just fun to do work like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what is that first practical step you'd recommend? Because you've dedicated thousands of hours to learning, to obviously teaching others how to work with generative AI. For entrepreneurs, for small business owners just starting with this tool, what's that first practical step you'd recommend?
I say just have fun and don't worry at first to try to solve business problems. And that's so hard for us to do because we just want to get in there and solve it immediately.
Mhm.
But I think that almost everybody that I've worked with I've asked them to start playing, and it's such a difficult thing to do that they dive right into trying to solve the business problems and they always hit a brick wall. And they come back frustrated because they're not getting the answers they're expecting. They don't really know how to use the language. They don't know how to talk to it. They don't know how to prompt it well. And again, you wouldn't take a first grader and give him a college level book to learn how to read on.
Mhm.
You would start them out with a simple first grade reader that's fun about Dick and Jane or what I'm aging myself. It's more fun and playful data that you're working with rather than the tough stuff. And so I tell my clients the same thing. Just go write a bedtime story or go take a picture of an object in your house and write a fairy tale around it or write a rap song or just funny, simple things. But even in the playful learning, you're actually learning all of the basics around how to use these tools in a much more, and I think, entertaining way. It's just a little bit more to access learning all of this new language and how to speak to it when you're doing it with the play.
I often think about it as I need to reframe it to not be another thing. I need to reframe it as I'm getting to know the thing that will take stuff off my plate.
Yes. Yes. And we all want the magic button, right? We just want to press the magic button and it's just done for us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, generative AI is not a magic button. It's an easy button. It makes things much easier, but it is not a magic
Mhm.
button. There's a huge distinction between the two.
Mhm. Mhm. And as you begin to see how the technology is evolving, I should say, what are some of the ways that you stay current and keep your strategies relevant? Because it isn't perfect yet, but this is the worst we're ever going to have it. It's only going to get
Definitely.
better, right?
Definitely. Which is mind blowing because it's already pretty good, I think. We get so spoiled so quickly oh my gosh, that took 2 whole seconds to produce a 300-word story. And
Truth.
yes, there's lots of ways that I keep up. First of all, I'm part of a larger AI group that we meet 5 nights a week for about 2 to 2.5 hours every single night. And I'm with about 60 to 100 other people in this group. And we're learning from each other. We're all bringing our knowledge and we're sharing it together. So I'm learning from people all over the globe. And that obviously keeps me very sharp and challenged. And I'm hearing about new technology that I normally wouldn't hear on my own. So that's one way that I do it. So I really encourage people to find a group that is comfortable for you and fun and enjoyable for you to go to. It could be something on social media, it could be a YouTube channel, whatever. But just get in there and learn with other people. It's so much less intimidating when you're doing it with others. Another way I do it is I watch the news. I stay up on news articles on my social media posts. I do write some articles of my own. I'm just very curious about it.
Mhm.
I think that's a big thing is just be curious instead of being fearful and thinking the worst about this technology. What if it may be one of the best things that we've ever been introduced to? So just approach it with an open mind and curiosity rather than fear, and just seek out conversations about it. Like I said, nobody's an expert right now. We're all learning this together. Find somebody else that's also interested and curious and learn together. Or find a bigger group. If you just want to sit back in the shadows and listen in, that's acceptable as well. But it is important, I think, to learn how to use these tools and learn it now.
Yeah. And because there are so many of them, everyone is on the same playing field, I think, in that you're inevitably going to be learning something new at one point or another. It's inevitable. You're going to be hearing about something you never heard of before. You're going to be listening to someone that has experienced something that you have yourself experienced, but yet they found a solution. Wait, I want to hear about that for
And
sure.
again, there's so many different tools. I encourage people to pick one, maybe two or three, and just play with that one or those couple rather than trying to dabble in all of them a little bit. It's almost like you're not really learning any of them well. So I would pick your favorite one or two or three and really dig into those. Maybe
Mhm.
it's one art program and it's one large language model like ChatGPT or Copilot, and maybe one video program if you want a variety. And then just go play with those three for the next month or two until you get familiar not only with that particular platform, but just generative AI in general,
Mhm.
because it is a whole nother language. But I think just take it slow. There's no deadline to learn this, but the sooner you get started, the better, because it's like we're all sitting in the stands and then Chat GPT came along and a few people started getting on the track and walking. And for those people who are going to stay in the stands for the next 3, 4, 5 years, they're going to get on that track finally and realize that they're lapped so much that it's going to be difficult to catch up. And that's what happened to me in my other career is I had stepped away from the race for so long that there was too many people that had lapped me and
Mhm.
there was no catching up no matter how much time I spent. So I really want to press in on people that just start dabbling now. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to dedicate your life to it, but just go home and spend 30 minutes, an hour a night playing with something that's fun and entertaining and just getting familiar with the tool.
Mhm. And as you discover all of these trends, these developments, what are you most excited about as you're seeing new things?
What am I most excited about? I think just how life changing these tools are going to be in our personal lives, in our professional lives. Truly, it's making work fun for me. I can spend hours and hours. I have to pull myself away because I'm enjoying the learning so much. I'm enjoying the creativity. I'm enjoying the building of something new. And then of course I'm learning all the people that I'm meeting who are also curious about this tool and developing relationships with them. And I don't have time to go into it now, but in a strange way, I seriously think that all this technology is going to bring humanity back together. It
I
sounds
love that.
counterproductive, but I really think that if we're not having to, I think we'll always fill up time with work, right? I think a lot of people say, oh, we're going to get to the point where there's not any work at all. I think that's just not the way humans are built. I think we all have to have purpose. We all want to build and create something, and we just call that work. But I think the nature of work is going to change to where maybe it is more enjoyable. It is easier to get to conclusions. It is easier to find answers, which may free us up to do. I'm not saying we're going to sit around and twiddle our thumbs all day. I don't think we'll ever do that. But I think our time will be spent on what I call more essential work and less of the non-essential work instead of the busy work that we're so used to doing for 8 hours a day at work, just trying to fill up 8 hours. I think now our work can be done in maybe 2 or 3 hours. In those other 5 hours, we have time to pursue other endeavors or create something new that we wouldn't have had time to create before. But I think that's the most exciting thing, is that it gives everybody an opportunity to tap back into that creativity that they used to have when they were 5 to 8 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I look at it almost like if you look at Tony Stark, right? Look at what Tony Stark was able to do with Jarvis. I want a
Right.
Jarvis. Do you know what I
It's
could
coming.
do? Do you know what I could do with my life if I had a Jarvis?
What could any of us do if we had a Jarvis?
And I literally just stumbled across a tool this morning where I was looking through it and I was like, no way. Because it will, if you download it to your computer, it will connect with every program on your computer and you will tell it, I want this. And it will go into all of your programs and do it. And I was just like, that's Jarvis right
That's
there.
an agent. Yes, that's agentic
Right.
behavior.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's where I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think this is the end of work. I think this
Mhm.
is definitely a revisioning of what work can be.
I think instead of the laborers, we're going to be the creative directors.
Yeah, I think for sure. So, on that note, what is next for you and SourceKamp? What do you have as an upcoming project or goal that you're just can't wait to dive into?
Of course, I've been waiting for a year for the rest of the world to figure out what a GPT is and how they can use it because I love building them. And they're such great problem solvers. In fact, I was doing some repetitive task last week and it dawned on me after I'd done two of them at about 10. And I went, what am I doing? I can build a GPT and make this so much easier. So it is that whole mind shift about there are better ways to do work now and do it more efficiently. So I think GPTs are going to become a pretty big thing, even with agentic behavior around the corner. And I think it's going to be here much sooner than we're thinking it might be. I'm also wondering, how do you control your agents that are doing the work for you? Because you can't just turn them loose. It's almost like turning loose a 5-year-old and saying, go do this task. We're still going to have to manage these bots and these agentic agents for us. So that's something I'm exploring as part of my business, is to help people figure out how to manage these agents that are coming. Of course, I think GPTs are going to be really huge in the very near future because you can learn anything quickly. You can access information much more faster than before. I built a GPT for a friend the other day who is getting his license in the HVAC world, working on HVAC machines. And he was saying that he was struggling with juggling these big 3-ring binders with all of the data and his flashlight and his pencil and paper and his phone and trying to work on the HVAC system. And I said, oh, I've got you. Let me just create a GPT for you. So I did. And now all he needs is his phone, and he can use the voice feature and just say, here's a picture of the machine. Tell me what model number it is. Tell me how I've got 7 fans and I've got this much voltage and I need to make sure that the power is in alignment with all of these different parts and pieces. And it just does the calculations for him.
I love it.
So much easier. And so that I see the power of a GPT being able to do something as complicated as that as a tool. And then something as simple as, oh my gosh, I've got a cranky 2-year-old. Here's a GPT that gives me tips and tricks on how to help them sleep better, or start turning off the lights and the TV and the radio sooner, and just bringing all of that energy down. Just a GPT can be built around anything and everything.
Mhm.
So I think that is the kind of the next big thing that's coming.
And if you look at, let's take the HVAC example, right? If he can do that quickly, how many more clients can he get to because he's not spending that extra time dropping, finding, flipping pages, looking for,
Right.
juggling this, juggling that? What can,
Miscalculating, doing the math
right?
incorrectly, or not seeing what he punched because it's dark in the attic, or it can even do training. It can create a customized training manual for him. If he's continually not able to remember something, we can have that GPT say, now tell us all the things that he missed or wasn't able to figure out quickly, and create a quiz for him. Let him practice until he gets it right. It's unlimited.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I am completely inspired by this conversation, and I so
Thank
thank
you.
you for your time. I feel like I learn every time I talk to you. So thank you
Thank you.
so much.
This was such a pleasure, and I love sharing my knowledge. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to do this again.
Let's do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowered by AI. If today's episode sparked ideas, don't wait. Follow the link in the show notes to visit innovativeaistudio.com and download your free resource, created to help you put today's insights into practice. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with more tips, tools, and inspiring stories. Until next time, stay empowered and keep innovating.